Hello, and a very warm welcome to you to Duncan Leigh Classical Guitar. Today on my YouTube channel, I will be discussing perhaps the single most important philosophical issue facing the world in 2025. Do I mean climate change? Am I talking about the return of Donald Trump to the White House? No! I will be discussing the key question of whether classical guitarists should still play Romanza in the 21st century. Romanza, Spanish ballad, Spanish romance. 3 titles from one publication alone, the infamous all-time classical guitar compendium that many of us grew up on, for this most iconic yet enigmatic staple of the guitar repertoire. The piece's enigma derives from the fact that, rather unusually for a composition, it possesses no definite fixed title, but also because its provenance remains unknown, so it's usually credited as Anon or Trad in published versions. Romanca Anonimo, Estudio en mi dirubira, Romance de España, Romance de Amor, Romance of the Guitar. Thank you, Wikipedia, for filling in the gaps in my knowledge relating to alternative titles for this one single song. Also, thank you again, Wikipedia, for informing me that the finger of suspicion for its authorship might point to any figure from the guitar world, from Saw to Yepes. For the sake of simplicity, for the remainder of this blog, I'm going to refer to the piece only as Romanza. When I recently read a question posted on an internet classical guitar forum, somewhat tentative in its tone, from a young guitarist asking if it is still acceptable to play Romanza in concerts, I appreciated the fear of ridicule entirely. This is, after all, the classical guitar equivalent of Smoke on the Water. Or Wonderwall. So, in an age when even the most patronisingly unadventurous of pub cover bands would never dare trot out that dreaded power chord riff, or Noel Gallagher's uber-famous jangly intro, I found the question, along with the caution it expressed, to be well-founded. By the time I happened upon the question, the asker had already received the full spectrum of opinions by way of response. But having been for a long time concerned about the narrowness of the standard classical guitar repertoire, reading that post inspired me to explore my own thoughts on the matter. To directly address the question of whether I think Romanza should still be performed in public or not, my short answer would have to be yes, because, 3 Hail Marys, I play it myself. I had always been determined to keep the old chestnut at a suitably safe distance from my own concert programmes. Think Chernobyl exclusion zone. So, I was somewhat horrified to find it sneaking its way in through the back door at unexpected moments. For example, when confronted by that crippling surge of adrenaline at the start of a live show that renders just about everything impossible to play, it comes in handy to soothe the nerves. When performing in an unfamiliar venue or in front of a new audience, and that initial nervousness prompts you to err on the side of the utterly safe and familiar. When my long-term and still yet to be precisely defined chronic overuse performance-related injury plays up, and my poor battered abductor pollicis brevis desperately needs a break from heavy barcode work, meaning that trotting out La Cathédrale as grandiosely envisaged before the concert is no longer medically possible. Anyway, so much for my own reasons for playing Romanza. As for the much more relevant question of which factors have caused it to remain as a staple of the guitar repertoire, handed down through countless generations of guitarists until the present day, perhaps we could speculate that the piece's enduring popularity is due to it being both quintessentially Spanish and quintessentially guitaristic. The soft romantic lilt, contrasting minor, major, minor, ABA structure, endless possibilities for expressive use of tone, timbre and rubato, as well as ringing open string arpeggio figurations suitably qualify it for this dual honour. I'd also suspect that the combination of familiarity and technical ease, at least until the major key section, has served to make Romanza an attractive proposition to a great many guitarists besides myself. For the restaurant or wedding performer, it is the ultimate easy filler piece. For teachers, it is the ultimate introduction to Spanish guitar music that is both accessible and educational for learners. Romanza has, it appears, much to recommend it. If we were, just for the sake of raining on the parade of the popular, always a noble aim in itself, to examine the factors that ought not recommend the piece, chief among them might be, paradoxically, its sheer ubiquity. Every non-guitarist who has a six-string gathering dust in their attic can play that treacherous opening melody. Like Wonderwall or Smoke on the Water, Romanza constitutes the most unimaginative of banal programme choices. It may still be alive and kicking, but it's as close to being done to death as Bach's Bourrée. There is also the more thorny question of the piece's quality. I've no hard data to back this up with, but my gut tells me that a great many more interesting and musically sophisticated compositions have fallen by the wayside over the years while Romanza has survived. The rhythmic simplicity and relentless melody of Romanza gives a nod to the plebeian associations of the guitar and serves as a reminder of the reason the Royal College of Music in London refused to acknowledge the classical guitar as a serious instrument until, that is, Master Julian Bream came along and showed them how wholly misplaced their traditionalistic snobbery actually was. I mentioned earlier that I have for some time felt uncomfortably aware of the stale and static nature of the established guitar repertoire, even as it continues to inspire promising young guitarists to aspire to be the next John Williams, John Mills or Segovia. Yet it is a fact that most of these pieces will retain their deserved, if disproportionate, place in the concert programmes of talented performers for a great many years or even centuries to come, assuming the human race is fortunate enough to survive a few more centuries. For Asturias and variations on a theme of Mozart, the musical excitement and, not to be underestimated, allure of the "look what I can do" factor is enough to elevate those pieces to milestone status for many ambitious budding guitarists. Recuerdos, I don't even need to say its full name, will forever remain the de facto tremolo standard. Romanza, by contrast, is no such badge of honour. It survives essentially because it's too big not to. Like Wonderwall or Smoke on the Water, it simply is. And just as it can be guaranteed that socially awkward teenage boys with unwashed shoulder-length hair will continue to bash out shaky renditions of Deep Purple's classic long after no one remembers the name of the band, let alone of its members who crafted that iconic riff, so will Romanza outlive us all. Love it or loathe it, it's here to stay.